Broads Media.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Let's do a midweek check-in on the Birds. Huge win, man. I just can't stress it enough how large of a victory that was to get off the schneid. And I didn't know this, but apparently everybody in Minnesota looks at what happened as a screw job. Yeah. They feel they got boned. They watched those 4 quarters, and their takeaway was Carson Wentz and Hockenson got screwed so badly. Hosed. And that's what costed them the game. Would it have changed where the game was at that particular time? Yes. In what universe can you be so stupid and so dumb? It's embarrassing. Everybody in Minnesota should have a blackout for this upcoming week for them. I don't know. They have a bye week. I don't know. I mean, I could say this and it magically pops on their bye week. I don't know. But whatever their next football game is, they shouldn't be allowed to consume it because they're so brain dead. But I digress. Here's what I know about non-brain dead people. They're enjoying Emilio cigars. Are you kidding me? Old school roots, new school attitude. Think about Brian Dawkins running out the tunnel. That's how I feel when I light up an Emilio cigar. Made at Fabrica Oveja Negra in Nicaragua. An Emilio cigar. Oh, it changes my life every single time it touches my lips. There's only one cigar to smoke. That is an Emilio cigar. So do me a favor. If you are a cigar smoker, make sure you go to the link down below in the description. Use promo code BROADS10 at checkout, and you will receive $10 off of your... $10. 10% off. No. 10% off. 10% off your purchase. It's a no-brainer. If you enjoy golfing, I know it's getting a little chilly, but you can still sneak around 18 in. If you enjoy just nature and nice fall weather and sitting out back enjoying the sounds of life. And when you light one of these puppies up, it just hits different. Oh, it's the best. Make sure you join the Emilio Cigar family today. Do not miss out, ladies and gentlemen. And guess what? Brandon Graham isn't going to miss out on an opportunity for a 3rd Super Bowl. So let's talk about BG. We got a lot of different topics to cover today. When it comes to Brandon Graham, I think majority of the city feels the same way, which is it's going to be nostalgic as hell. There's nothing more electric than 55 flying out there, trash talking at the line of scrimmage, and being such a valuable piece in the locker room. And just everything that he brings, man. Nick Sirianni says it all the time, but everybody deserves and everybody should have a Brandon Graham in their life, in their locker room, on their football team, man. When there's Brandon Graham around, the place is better. And that's the damn truth. We just all hope and pray that it gives us and it gives him at least some validation. Because I hate to speak this into existence, but it is a truth. And I don't really run away from the truth. I really hope and pray it's not one of those things where he returns at his age, coming off of multiple tricep injuries, something bad doesn't happen, and then all this excitement and juice goes right out the window because, well, football happens, if you catch my drift. But here's where I'm going to push forward with optimism and positivity. I trust Brandon Graham. And when I say that, I mean, I feel he would only do this if his body and his mind says it's right. Now, he went off and mentioned how he didn't really want to retire to begin with. And that doesn't surprise me. Because I remember when he gave his retirement speech, one of his hitting home points was his kids. And he said, your voice and your words matter. When you say something, you act upon it. It means the world. Your words matter. And it's a hell of a teaching moment. You can't just be blabbing around saying nonsense and then not acting upon it. So he felt very strongly about when he makes a stand that this is going to be it. This is going to be it. I said it. But it didn't feel, just speculating and kind of showing you how I felt when I heard him say those words, it didn't feel like he really wanted to give it up. He had to give it up to be the father and to act on what he was selling to his kids to teach them. And now, 6 weeks into the season, 7 weeks into the season, he's ready to go back to work. It's not really surprising. And I'm going to trust him. Because I got to imagine if he wasn't 1,000% in, and if he wasn't feeling great physically, and if he wasn't locked in mentally, there's no way, even with Howie Roseman being so damn desperate for pass rush, I don't think he'd do it. He'd only do it if it all aligned perfectly for him to put back on that uniform and tie up the cleats again. It just so happened that they are also barely getting any production at that position. Because apparently there was communication between both parties before the Zadarius Smith front. But then they went with Zadarius Smith and you go, okay. So I don't know, maybe I just talked myself into thinking maybe it was because they're so damn desperate, because if the Zadarius Smith thing happened, and if he didn't retire, then are we here? I don't know. I don't know. But one thing you got to remember is before the original tricep injury, BG was balling. BG was making an impact. He was changing the games. He was. A year ago. No training camp. A different offseason. Couple of surgeries. So it's not apples to apples. And we all know how year to year this league is. But to tie a bow on this, if I want to spread positivity, let's not act like he was a stiff last season. Will it impact the locker room with juice and energy? Like, hell yeah, baby. We got BG back. There's some fuck yes excitement going on in the locker room. It's possible. Could there be others that wonder, what the hell does this mean? You don't trust me? Now, I don't know who has the balls to take that stance. Jalix Hunt? Who else in the pass rush department? Josh Uche? Ojolari, right? I don't know who thinks they have the skin in the game long enough to think BG doesn't override anything they think. But I don't know. I'm just looking at all angles here. Is it possible certain individuals in the locker room go, well, this is devastating. What, you didn't trust? Well, look at the numbers, bro. Look at the numbers. Look at the stats. Look at the lack of sacks. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. I got to imagine 98% of the locker room maybe gets that adrenaline push and that jolt of lightning because 55 is smiling ear to ear. And it's a lot different from when you're around the practice facility and when you're in the room. You know what I'm saying? Sure, you can learn a lot from BG and he can have that infectious smile and dapping people up and smacking them on the ass and all that good stuff after making a good play. But when he's got the helmet on strapped up next to you, it's just another universe. It really is. So that's sort of where I am with the BG stuff. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's better than what you got now. And you got to remember that he did do some really important things prior to that injury. He didn't look 80 years old prior to the triceps. Now, there were 2 tricep injuries, though, but for whatever it's worth. Okay. Now let's move on to the next thing that's buzzing around the Eagles world. And that is what Drew Brees continues to do on ESPN. He rips the Eagles nonstop, it feels. And I want to play this 2-minute clip where I think there's a lot of truth to what he's saying. I don't like the tone of how he says some of it. And I don't think he's forward thinking enough either throughout his assessment. Here's what Drew Brees states about the Philadelphia Eagles after beating Minnesota.
I'll start with you. I know you called that Eagles offense vanilla a couple of weeks ago, but it's too much being made about the Eagles offensive struggles.
Look, it is about winning. And I'll be honest, I'm shocked that they're 5-2 based on how they've played. They are a middle of the pack offense and they're a middle of the pack defense right now. And I think shockingly, statistically, they are the 30th ranked rushing offense in the league.
Thank you.
Would you have ever thought that the Philadelphia Eagles, with the best back in football and one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in football, one of the best O-lines in football, would be the 30th ranked rush defense? And they've got two of the most explosive receivers in the league. Here's what I see when I turn on the Philly tape. I see a team who has gone so far from what was their identity. Man, in the past, it was, man, we are run first, and we are either handing it off to this guy with a light box because somebody has to account for the quarterback, or Jalen Hurts is going to pull it and he's going to run, or he's going to throw an RPO because we have favorable numbers on the edge and we're going to get in these playmakers' hands. And we're just going to sit there and dent the defense and we're going to control the clock. And then the point totals will reflect that. And then the defense isn't going to be out there as long. But it's hard not to turn them on and say, man, they just don't look like what they've done in the past. And maybe they're just shifting their mindset. It looks like they're just trying to put Jalen in the gun, do a lot more drop back passing, and give him the opportunities just to read the defense and throw the football. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine. But I just don't think it's as good as they could be. And I think that's what we need to focus on here is, yeah, you're winning games, but are you as good as you could be when you have the top 10 highest paid guys on your team on offense?
Well,
you are the 30th ranked rushing offense in the league, and you're just like squeaking out games.
Okay, so obviously we hate hearing any sort of trash talk. Yeah, not trash talk, but any sort of negative views on our team from an outsider, especially someone that seems to have an agenda to rip us every time he gets the chance. But there's truth to what he's saying. Here's where I disagree, though. Of course, we sit here every day and internally as a fan base rip this team for not living up to the standard. Yet, not living up to the standard yet. We don't feel they hit their stride. You're right. They're not playing as well as they should, as well as they can. But they are still 5-2. And you may look at it as, I don't see how they're 5-2, while I look at it as great teams stack wins while figuring out the process of how to maximize this current year. Each season's different. Yeah, maybe there was an identity shift because teams saw and studied over and over again what transpired last season, and the league came together, not actually, but as each coach went to their respected film room, they realized this is what the Eagles did. We need to take that away. We can't allow Saquon to be that much of a force, and now that changes how the Eagles have to operate their attack, and they're figuring out this version of their identity. And it takes time. You don't just snap your fingers and get that. So that's part of why it looks the way that it does. But a great team winning while it may be ugly, and while there may be 3 and outs, and while there may be inconsistencies in what they're doing. And I agree, it's not pleasurable to the eye nonstop, but we can't downplay being greasy and winning throughout that time. You know, look, we ripped through the Kansas City Chiefs last year in the Super Bowl where it wasn't even competitive. But there's something to be said about the Chiefs all year long. And I know they didn't win the Super Bowl, right? They did get embarrassed, but I mean, they got to the Super Bowl. I'm not going to diminish them. And they already won multiple Super Bowls prior to that. How many teams are winning 3 straight damn Super Bowls, okay? So, I mean, that's part of this pie, too. there was something about last year's Chiefs team that aesthetically didn't look like previous teams and this and that. And I think there was only one team that was going to do that to the Chiefs last year, and it just so happened that the Chiefs ran into us. The Chiefs could have beat the Lions. The Chiefs could have beat the Rams. The Chiefs could have beat Green Bay. The Chiefs could have beat any of those teams. That version of the Chiefs last season could have destroyed and annihilated any of those teams coming out of the NFC, except for the Eagles because of the heartbreak in 22, just because of the way that they were so dedicated to win that game with revenge because of Jalen Hurts. But that Chiefs, it was a different look. But coming off of Super Bowls, and when you're playing a Super Bowl schedule the next year, because, you play those teams when you're winning the division and everyone's getting ramped up and they want to give you your best, and all, it's going to look a little weird. And also, how much of this too? He mentioned the O-line. He said, oh, the O-line's great. No, it's not. See, this year it's not, though. It's not. And that's also why they may have to shift some of their philosophy with the offense. Because if they can't run block, then things are going to change. And if they're better at pass blocking, maybe you got to play to your strengths of this year's offensive line. Now, they got to figure out the run game. But winning while figuring it all out and going back to the drawing board each week and trying to push certain buttons. See, I think that's crazy. Because he says he doesn't think they look. What's the quote? The Eagles just don't look like what they've done in the past. Okay. So it's a new version of the team. And you can say all you want that, well, last year everyone knew the run was coming. Well, last year was last year. And yes, Saquon had Saquon's always going to be great for this little window that we're in, right? I still think he's physically dominant and still a force. But you're not going to have the most historic year every year you ever touch the football. He's been amazing his whole career. He's never done that except for once. And a lot of it was predicated on Mekhi Becton at right guard, mauling people, and the way Lane and Mailata were playing. And the whole thing just really did move as one. The unit was perfect. Landon Dickerson wasn't as banged up, or at least if he was, he didn't show it as much. And because I'm sure those guys were hurting, but they were just grooving as one. It's okay that they don't look like that because it's October. And most teams don't. Last year, the Eagles didn't look like that at this time. The Eagles didn't look like that at this time. They were 2-2. They had their bye. Nick Sirianni was yelling at fans. I mean, when was that Cincinnati game? Because that's the game that always hits hard for me. Eagles 2024 schedule results. It was the second half against Cincinnati. Wasn't that week 7? It was week 7 or week 8, game 7, because they had the early bye, where they won 37-17 on the road. October 27th. It's October 22nd. So we're even earlier than last year. You can acknowledge things do look a little, but not even, but I don't know. Now, after that Minnesota game, it seems like things are moving the right way. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. I really don't. But here's what I do understand. How great my friends over at Kalshi are. Kalshi is a prediction market. And we love sports. And what if I told you had an opportunity to bet on the World Series? To bet on NFL football, college football, you name it, NBA, NHL. There's so many opportunities to bring cash back in your pocket with Kalshi. But there's so much more than just sports available for you. And that's what makes Kalshi so glorious. Climate, politics, economics, culture. Imagine a stock exchange, but instead of stocks and bonds, it's events that truly matter to you. I use Kalshi to check odds and track sentiment all the time. Kalshi is the only place to trade in these events legally in all 50 states. Kalshi lets you take something as subjective as a celebrity rumor and turn it into concrete numbers. And you can use promo code BROADS at checkout, and you will get $10 when you sign up with my code, as long as you meet the $100 threshold. It's a no-brainer. Do me a favor, check out Kalshi, see all the cool ways that you can look into climate, politics, culture, sports, economics. It's a game changer. And it's so fun. It's so unique. There's nothing like it out there. Make sure you join Kalshi today. All right, we have more A.J. Brown drama. And it's just annoying. Okay, it is. A.J. Brown put on his Instagram, using me, but not using me. Now, some blowhards are making it seem like this was just A.J. trolling everybody. I don't think that at all. I made a joke, and I thought it was a joke, but I thought maybe there could be actual truth to it, that A.J. was pissed off Devontae Smith was the star of the show in the passing game, and that, did I say A.J. Smith? Devontae Smith. I don't know what the hell I said. But he could be mad that Devontae Smith was the star in the passing game, and he had 11 targets compared to only half of that for A.J., even though he put up big numbers. He iced the game. He had a couple of touchdown passes, one on 4th down to start the game, one with a wicked solid throw there in the middle of the field, a good anticipation throw by Jalen, and he was still going to bark. And I said that somewhat sarcastically, then here we go. He's barking again. This is what he does. And it makes no sense. And some of you may think, why does it matter, bro? It's because it's annoying as hell. That's why. It's annoying. And I almost wonder, because I don't know exactly the time he Instagrammed that. I guess I can find out. Because I heard Donovan McNabb talk. And I'm about to play that for you in 1 second. But I almost wonder if the way Donovan McNabb thinks is tied together with A.J. Brown. It doesn't have the timestamp on Instagram, does it? Okay, it doesn't. Anyway, because I think that was posted before Donovan McNabb joined the WIP afternoon show. It did. Because Crossing Broad posted the A.J. Brown caption at 12:42 p.m. So it was right after noon on Tuesday. And McNabb joins the WIP afternoon show in the afternoon, obviously. So, okay, it was before that. But take a listen to what Donovan McNabb saw in the game against Minnesota, referencing the passing game, the offensive coordinator, and all that jazz.
We're focusing on number one. Under center.
I don't know why you focusing on number one. I mean, the whole thing is you knew what number one can give you.
Okay.
The whole thing is, again.
Talk that talk.
I'm tired of everybody always focusing on the easy one to throw darts at. I mean, if you look at him statistically, he's putting up decent numbers and he's accurate and doing what he's supposed to do. It's about the play calling. I've seen a more aggressive attack by our play caller and being able to put guys in position. I told you, our best route runner is Devontae, which Devontae to me is our number one receiver, but we put everybody else in better positions so that we can push it downfield. I would love to see us be able to run the football more and also run the screen game with Saquon. I think that's the strength of his that people are overlooking. But I was pleased by what I've seen with the ballot. I was pleased by what I've seen by our quarterback having an opportunity just to relax and just play football. And I've seen explosive plays.
I love Five. I do. I know he's controversial to some, and people say, I can win the big one. He throws up in the huddle and blah, blah, blah. I love hearing Five. I do. I may not always agree with Five, but I do appreciate hearing him. Now, he said Devontae Smith's the best route runner. He's number one in my eyes. See what I'm saying? Now, again, the timeline doesn't add up for it, but it's almost like A.J. Brown feels I'm getting used so Devontae Smith can cook. And it's just disrespectful. Even if he's just doing it to get people wired up, which I don't think he is. I need Big Dom on the case. I need Big Dom to get in there just to shut up. I need Big Dom to take his phone. You know what they need to do? You know how little kids these days, I think there's like a timer on their iPad and a timer on their phone. I think you need to somehow lock A.J. Brown out of all of his social media platforms, and he's just not allowed to use it. because it's just ridiculous. You finally win a game, you look good, your team's grooving, and now he's bitching again. But with the Patullo front, though, this is where things are interesting. How many of these plays we saw was a scramble, the 3rd and long to A.J. Brown, 3rd and 13, that was clutch. The 3rd down prior to that to Smitty, that was clutch. The 4th down where you tell A.J. Brown, if you actually see the route concepts prior to Jalen pointing at A.J. to go to the end zone a certain way, I don't know where they thought success would be. I don't know what the hell they thought was actually going to be generated there. So, can you make the argument that a lot of that was the quarterback, the wide receivers working on scramble stuff and just being effective when needed? And I think that's fair. And I also wonder, with this whole narrative, and I don't want to say narrative as in it's a made-up concept. There may be some serious truth to this, but there was so much noise about the fact that Thoat can't snap the ball in shotgun. So how much of this was, to their credit, realizing we got to do under center more, because that's not one of Thoat's strengths, and how much of it is we prepare to go under center because we know that's actual development that needs to be added to our repertoire so we can be great. And then it kind of raises the question, did they back themselves into this success, or did they visualize this success? But then you also add in that Devontae Smith mentioned that they were working on some things and they knew that certain coverages would happen. And then he went to the sidelines, and at halftime they talked about it and knew that they could had that 79-yard bomb. But why did it take so long if that coverage was in play for multiple different snaps? You could have got to it sooner. Why did it take Devontae barking and getting loud and making that stance for us to even have that play call? I don't know. I'm willing to open up my heart and say, hey, Kevin Patullo, the passing game does seem to be moving in the right direction. Even though there's been some losses the last few weeks, there are times where the offense does look like a high-powered passing offense. It does. There are pockets that you can find over the last 3 weeks, even with losses on the resume, that show you it does seem to be progressing. And if they can figure out the damn run game and marry the two together, now we're talking about that lethal juggernaut again. So I'm not trying to kill what Kevin Patullo does every single week. But there are so many little nuggets within their success that make you really wonder if the first-time play caller has it or not. If it's scramble drills, how much of that is just playmakers making plays? If it's backyard football style, okay, well, how much of that is just Jalen being Jalen and AJ being AJ? If it's Brett Thoat can't snap the ball in shotgun, so they deviate from their plan. But then I can make the argument, to his credit, that if you know Thoat can't do something, then you got to do what's best for the player to put him in a position to succeed. But then I wonder, why does it take so long? If Jalen can cook like this, and if it's better for the offense, why would you be so dumb to not implement it into the standard playbook as it is? You know? So I'm rooting for Kevin Patullo. I want him to be successful. It's just, it's not crazy to just watch a first-time play caller and say, whoa, there's some rough spots here. Because there are people out there that feel it's just easy to blame the OC. It's just too easy to point his way. It can't be as easy as Kevin Patullo is struggling. Well, I disagree. I go the other way. I say, no. It is fair. The NFL is hard, okay? The NFL is not easy. He was the passing game coordinator last year, and the passing game was the worst part of our team for a long time throughout the regular season. He then got a jump up, and as a first-time play caller in Philadelphia with Super Bowl aspirations, he looks like there's a learning curve. It's okay to say that. And it's probably the best meaning it's the easiest fix compared to if there's 75 issues and this and that and this and that. And look, there are other problems. The O-line's banged up. They're struggling to get the run game going. There are other elements here, but if you fix the brain power that sets up the structure, I think a lot of the on-field struggles gets fixed to some level. There's always going to be deficiencies based off of personnel, health, things of that nature, but it starts with the structure, the foundation of it. I don't think that's crazy to say. I also don't think it's crazy to tell you about my great friends over at Camden Apothecary, because I love my cannabis, and there's nothing, and I mean nothing, better in the world when it comes to cannabis. There's nothing better in the world than Camden Apothecary. Philly fans, game day is stressful enough. Traffic, parking, long lines, we've all been there. But when it comes to your cannabis, Camden Apothecary makes it easy. And they are only 5 minutes over the bridge. This is the dispensary for sports fans, just minutes outside of Philly with plenty of free parking. You'll be in and out fast, no hassle, no waiting. And they don't just care about convenience. Camden Apothecary is all about guest experience. Their staff makes sure that you feel taken care of every time you walk in. Plus, they carry only the best quality cannabis at the fairest prices. So whether you're stocking up for the tailgate, the watch party, or celebrating a big win, you know you're getting the good stuff without overpaying. They even show love to the community with specials for fans, students, service members, and healthcare pros. Camden Apothecary, top quality cannabis, great prices, and an experience made for Philly fans 21 and up. Tell them Bro sent you for 10% off. It's a no-brainer, ladies and gentlemen. The best cannabis on the market, Camden Apothecary. Make sure you get yours today. All right, why don't we listen to the one and only Dan Orlovsky, who always does an amazing job breaking down the film. This was on the Pat McAfee Show.
Jalen Hurts threw 3 touchdowns yesterday. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Dano, we were all shocked when the Eagles were throwing the ball to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and it was working. What did they do to kind of unlock this, or not even unlock it, but kind of bring it back to everyone's forefront? Because there was about, 2 quarters of this game where I thought, oh, wow, watching the Eagles sucks now. But then you remember how many studs they have on their team. What was the difference you saw from them on Sunday?
Yeah, I think so. The first touchdown to A.J. Brown is just kind of like backyard football. That ball right there that he throws to Devontae. So this one to A.J., I think this is decently subpar defense. They don't rush that well. A.J. is matched up really on a safety. This is the big one, though, to Devontae. Number 1, 6 offensive linemen. Number 2, he's underneath the center. Number 3, play action. They haven't done any of that this year. And so it leads to a huge play. A.J.'s in the backside running the in. Everybody's attention is playing to him, or pointed to him, and he has that beautiful post touchdown to Devontae Smith, but they did more of that. I think you saw Jalen be really good when it came to plus plays, like breaking outside of the pocket and getting into scramble mode. Dude, you know what's my favorite part of this? Another under center, 6 offensive linemen, play action. No, throw the ball in the middle field. You don't say. So, but this doesn't have to be necessarily who they are, like on a consistent basis. But 3, 4, 5 times a game, look how wide open these dudes are.
It is wild that it takes this long to get to something so fundamental, so basic. A quarterback with his hands underneath the butt crack of the center saying, hot, pretending to run the football with a Saquon Barkley, having people bite off of that, thinking the greatest running back in the league, let's say, potentially, there's other great names out there, but you get my point, might run it down your throat. So they bite, and then the middle of the field is wide open. It seems very elementary. I'm hoping that this is just sort of the surge we need. And I don't know if this listen, I'm very positive after that win. They're in a good spot. If they could win on Sunday and be 6-2 at the bye, based off of their schedule, based off of how things went the last few weeks prior to Minnesota, where things looked to unravel, I'd be so damn happy. And I am very happy. I hope this show didn't sound I'm beating up on them. It just confuses me sometimes that some of the answers that we've been looking for felt easier to get than what they were, but they are getting the answers and smoothing things out. It's just taking a bumpier road than maybe we anticipate. I think that's sort of the moral of the story. If you want to find a way to summarize the last 30-something minutes of listening here, is there are things that are annoying. Ultimately, I believe in Jalen so much, and I think that's just always going to keep me positive, is the quarterback. The quarterback's great. I love the quarterback. When you have the quarterback, it makes things a lot easier. The offensive coordinator and the coach are making things tougher for the guy that should be making things easier. But they are smoothing it out throughout the process, and that's always sort of been what it's about, is, hey, we're just going to keep improving week by week. For a while there, you were stuck, not improving. Now it seems like they're getting answers again, and, you know, I'm trying to find that mix of expectation being a Super Bowl, knowing they just won a Super Bowl, knowing there are flaws, right? We got to hear from Vic Fangio the last couple of days, trying to figure out what Jacorian Bennett is and how he hasn't really had an opportunity to assess that yet. And, well, I'll tell you who you did assess, and those guys stink. But I digress. You got to appreciate the journey while keeping the expectations fair, but also criticizing rightfully when you feel the answer should have already been figured out. And it's a combination of all those thoughts while appreciating the football team at the same time. And that's kind of the balance I'm trying to work through. But anyway, BG, fun stuff. Love you guys. You're the best. Go Birds.